Welcome to the Forge Within podcast, where we have real stories and real conversations around mental health, and hopefully together we can start breaking the stigma around mental health. So you probably listened to some of the earlier episodes. I've had this 4 episodes at the moment, but I've taken some time away and realized the importance in having these conversations around mental health, but not just from my perspective, but from people around me and people within the communities as well. It's really, really important. For those who don't know me, my name's Sam Wilkes, so I'll be a weekly host, and every single week we'll have guests around the area from South Wales. Then we can branch out to other parts of Wales and other parts of England and the rest of the UK as well. But it's going to be aimed at having these real conversations with people who they're not doctors, they're not psychologists, they are real people with life stories. And I honestly believe that by having this honest conversation with ordinary people like myself and the people who are listening, we can start to change this stigma around the mental health and everyone think it's okay not to be okay. I couldn't think of a better way for my first guest of the New Year, New Forge podcast to be my mother, Beverly Ann Grentner. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my mother, Beverly Ann Grentner. How are you today? You okay?
I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, I'm
There.
all good. Hello, everybody.
Oh, there we go. So yeah, so this is my mom, Bev. She's an absolute. For those who know her, a lot of people will be listening to this today, and they'll be knowing how incredible a person she is. She's been a rock. People who've read the book and listened an awful lot, a lot to my story as well, and the pivotal role that my mother played in my life. And I just think that it'd be a really, really good idea to get a different perspective of what was seen beyond what you know about me and what I know as well. There will be parts in there that probably will be very emotional, and other parts that will be tender. However, I really do think there's an important conversation. I hope that a lot of parents as well, if they've been in a situation that my mother has been in with myself, that they can find strength in what my mother experienced and what she has been through in regards and the tips that she's had as well. Like she'll tell you now when she comes on that a lot of the stuff that we talk about. We do these conversations all the time, and do you agree, man, that we had a conversation before we come on and went, oh my god, are we going to do this? Because it just feels totally alien.
Absolutely. I'm a pen and paper girl. I'm
Yeah.
really.
So yeah, me and my mother got a wicked relationship, and yeah, you'll get to know that. There'll be a lot of laughter through it as well, but again, there'll be a lot of different perspectives, things that I might not know in regards of how Mum felt in these periods of time. But it'll just be really, really good to see where it goes. So yeah, so without further ado, Mum, I was going to call you Bev. Then that's even worse.
You call me what you want to, love.
I'm not.
You used to call me Joe.
I am not
All
calling
right,
you
Joe.
Beverly. No, you are Joe. Yeah. So inside
Joe.
bit of an inside joke by you. In regards to Joe. Go on, Mum. You tell him the story about why I call you Joe.
I remember the initial time because it's gone on so long, but you say, all right, Joe, how's
Yeah.
it going, Joe? And I can't remember the initial time, but it's
But
like it just stuck.
can you remember the red bandana?
Oh, yes, I can, Sam. I'll never, I'll never, I'll never forget the red bandana
Yes,
and the
that was
nappy and
that.
the mop and the dance and the song.
So for those that are listening, a really funny time before we get into it all is that I come home. I don't drink anymore
I
at
was
all.
in,
Only
I was in bed. I was in
yeah,
bed,
yeah,
wasn't I?
yeah. Mum was in bed. We were staying in a small little bungalow, and I'd come in really drunk. I was probably around about 21 years of age, and I knocked on the door, bang, 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 on the door, and she went, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" I said, "Come out here, quick, come out here, quick." And before I knew it, I was playing this music by
No,
Redbone.
hang on a minute now. You said, "Oh, Mum, I've had a great night. I have. I've had a great night. I have." I said, "Oh yeah, right, oh Sam, get to bed now, love. All right, yeah, get to bed." No, hang on a minute, Mum. I got a really good night. I got something to show you. I thought, what the hell? Out you go now into the passage. Next thing I know, this song is on your phone, and you slide into the bedroom on the wooden floor with this broom. and you had a nappy on, or I can't remember, a towel or something round your
Wasn't it my
midriff.
pants that were like they were like wrapped up into like a thong? My pants were or something like that. It was
Yeah,
ridiculous.
something,
Yeah,
something like that. And you had
tops.
a red bandana on and
Oh,
dark sunglasses. And then you started gyrating and dancing to this song.
oh
Early
my
hours
god.
of men.
Yeah. So that's the one. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, it's like she wears a red bandana and a cool something like that. It's in the
Oh,
honky
it's
tonk
funny.
down in
So funny.
Mexico. Yeah. So
I only gotta, we're talking about it now, right? I can visualize it all and I'm just grinning because
yeah.
there's a photo somewhere. Somewhere there's a
We,
photo.
do you know
I don't know where, but there is a photo.
we had the video,
I mean,
right? And I do not know where the video went. I have
I know.
absolutely no
I
idea.
know.
So I
I
know
know.
that probably would have been a
Well,
social
you
media bomb now, probably.
the thing is, we're going back a long time, and I mean, whereas now, I mean, mobile phones are they're everywhere. They're in everybody's pocket. They're in people's hands. They're walking down the street. But I mean, this was early hours of the morning, 20 odd years ago, and there was, mobiles weren't then what they are now.
No,
Oh my gosh, I
definitely not.
could bribe you with that, Sam, if I had that video now.
Not just bribe me. Can you imagine? It'd been over social media. It would have been like a TikTok sensation,
Oh,
probably in this day and age.
it's
Like
funny.
a bold headed version of Jerry Maguire coming in, wasn't it? That's what it was. Definitely. Right. So what
It's
we'll do,
all good fun.
we'll get into its and jits about it. So, like I said, we're here today to talk about my the mental health journey that I've been on from a young age, and I know you've read the book, and you know an awful lot as well. And there are things as well that it's been shocking to hear and experience, knowing really what kind of mental state I was in for such a long period of time, and I think that's where we come into the masks and everything. But before we do any of that, before we get into like from you being a mother, what I want to do, I want to look at before all happened, before my struggles happened. What did mental health mean to you? What did you perceive mental health to be?
Um, right, mental health to me. Well, mental health years ago when I was younger, it was around. I mean, I've worked in the care setting 36 years, with Claire having my sister. I mean, we've lost her now 15 years ago now. But as you know, Claire had Rett syndrome, adult learning disability. Was eventually given the title after many, many tests of Rett syndrome. But mental health to me was, it was because I worked in care, it was something that was only thought of around adults with learning disability, if you understand what I'm saying. I mean, like Pennyval, you heard of people having breakdowns, you heard of people having electric therapy treatment, but I mean, it was the mental health term, as far as I am aware in my own mind, was just used within the system of people with problems with mental health, disability, difficulties. It wasn't used on a daily basis for, the average person without problems. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think when we look at the history of learning disabilities and from where your perspective is coming from, and then looking at where mental health is, we've come an awful long way. Believe it or not, people look around them and look at mental health and think, oh my God, there's tons of people struggling. However, this was such a big thing for long periods of time, and I seen it. We'll get more into that later. I seen a lot of it at the age of 18 when we come back from Thailand, and we had all them problems with the NHS and the doctors and everything. But you are right. This is a thing that before this.
I'm going
eh,
back a long time. I'm going back a long, long time now.
mm,
I'm just saying where it originated from. And from on a personal side of things, I can remember watching TV, and it had such an impact on me. Now, whether this was the first time that um, I became aware of things in a different mindset, I don't know. But this is the first time that I thought, this isn't right. This got to change. But there was an advert on TV, and there was a young man, mid-20s probably, and the advert was he was in an interview situation, and it was all hunky dory. And the manager was behind his desk in a big corporate office, and he'd obviously been asked all these questions. And I mean, the advert itself showed that he had sailed through this interview. And the manager then said to him, "Is there anything you want to ask me, or before we end the interview, if you want to sort of tell me anything about yourself?" And the guy sort of shifted in his chair, and he said to the guy who was doing the interview, "I need to tell you, I do suffer a little bit with my mental health on occasions." And straight away, the body language, the facial changes all happened with the manager. He slid the knife that you open letters with, he put that in the drawer. Um, all the body language was there. I mean, the poor guy giving the interview, he looked bereft really, because he knew then that he didn't have the job after all, because just him saying that had changed everything. And I remember that, and that was like a turning point to me in my mindset. It might have happened prior to that, but because I was in a care setting and a work role, probably a lot of it sort of was going over my head because I was involved in the care anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
But when I saw that interview, I've never forgot it, and that stayed with me. Is To me, that in my mind, that was the first shift I can remember of it being televised. If you know what I mean? Do you understand what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
no, 100%. What year do you reckon that was, man, when you seen that video, roughly?
Oh, I have no time just goes so quickly. But
Yeah.
I might be wrong in saying, I don't know, 8, 10 years? I don't
Mm,
know. It might be sooner or later than that. But I've never forgot that interview.
yeah.
Never forgot it. It had a big impact on me. Not because I had any intention of going for a different job at all.
Mm.
I was well settled in my role. I wasn't looking at that thinking, "Oh, I get some points from this now," kind of thing. But it jumped out at me, and I thought, "Oh my giddy aunt, there's so many people going to be in this situation, and it's wrong. Things have got to change."
Yeah, no, I think there's a big thing at the moment when you're looking at people with employment, and it's this kind of mentality or societal um, impact at the moment where people think that they're going to be judged for coming out and talking
Absolutely.
about their mental health. And I know that was a massive thing for myself, and coming back from Thailand and just nobody knowing what was wrong with me, and then being judged for thinking that there was something wrong. And it's very very difficult. And when we go into the working environment, where you need to perform, they need results, but then you struggle with your mental health, and then you're worried about your boss then because they are under stress and pressure as well. Will they understand? Will they give you the time off? And it just becomes a revolving door of just constant. And we live in this world of denial, then of the denial. I can't be honest about it. I don't want to tell anyone about it. And then unfortunately that's what leads then to the crisis we're in at the moment, where the suicide rates are through the roof. Mental health, the waiting list in the NHS is incredibly high as well. So there's an awful lot of things at the moment which a lot of people are doing right, but it's becoming the next epidemic. I know we've just got over COVID,
Without a doubt.
but
Without a
100% with the mental health and everything. And even though we've come a long way, and we're going back to like where your perception changed. I know that again we're going back. I went to Thailand 2007, so you started seeing bits of it then. And it wasn't until later on then when I started talking. We'll talk more then about when we get into when it became personal view. We can talk about when I had the headaches when I was 11 years of age, and we thought that was like a brain tumor.
doubt.
There's lots of different things within the system where they're not getting picked up early enough and they're not being identified, and there's a lot of people then struggling with mental health illnesses that could be dealt with a lot quicker, or intervention techniques basically to make things better for people. But yeah, no, I think
Well,
yeah.
I think just quickly, I think the old cliche of pride can be a downfall is so important. It's not one of those little comments that you can sort of throw around and think, oh, it's just one of those things that crops up now. It's so important. I'll just quickly jump because as you was talking then, it made me remember. Um, I was a closed book, very, very private person, very, very, very private person, and wasn't used to talking about my feelings. And when me and your dad broke up, I can remember sitting on a bench and somebody known to us both, a good friend to us both, and you was playing in the field, and inside I was struggling, but I was too proud to tell anybody I was struggling. Everybody thought I was fine. And this friend said to me, are we really doing, Bev? I'm struggling not to say anybody's name, so I apologize for babbling. Are you really doing, Bev? And I don't know where it was, just like as if something inside my brain said, you've got to tell him you're not. You've got to tell him you're not all right. Do you know what I mean? This is ridiculous. And I actually turned and I said, I'm struggling, to be honest. And this person looked at me and went, I knew you would be. I said to my wife, right, we better pop down. And she said to me, oh, you know, Bev, man, she's all right. If she wants help, she'll ask. And that was a turning point for me. I've never forgot that. And I've repeated it to her friends that I've spoken to many times. It just takes that one time to say, I'm not okay. And I can remember doing it. And I can remember you coming home the night that you came home and you said to me, Ma'am, I've told my friends. And I've never forgot that either. So that the two pivotal times in my mind that I'll never forget. And on your face was relief and emotion.
Yeah.
And a little bit worried because you didn't know how people were going to react. But you felt relieved that you'd said it out loud. And I didn't say it to you at the time, but I knew exactly how you felt because I felt it that day on the bench that I said, I'm not all right, to be honest. And that's the first time I started talking. If 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 everybody s- talked and listened, but I will say people need to know this. This is a very, very important lesson that I also learned. After that, I thought, I'm gonna start talking to people and saying, "I'm having a bit of a bad day," because I was, I was struggling going through the divorce and all. I pretended I was fine, but I wasn't really. And, I went into work and, uh, this particular lady was older than myself, and I could remember the feeling in my stomach. It was all, like, bubbling up, and I was nervous. I was thinking, "You gotta say it, you gotta say it, you gotta say it." And then I just blurted out. And I said, "Terry, I'm struggling a bit at the minute. I got a bit of a worry." And this person turned round and said to me, "We've all got worries." And she walked away from me. And at the time, I thought I'd obviously chosen the wrong person, right? Obviously chosen the wrong person. But at the time, I thought, I'm just not going to talk to anybody again. I can't disclose if they're all going to react like that. But I didn't. I obviously spoke up. I chose the wrong person, and it got to be said. It was a long time after, years later, that I had realised. I didn't realise that this person was in an abusive relationship. So she had troubles of her own. So that's why she turned to me and said what she said. But wisdom, age, time, name it what you want. I mean, as I've come on, you will realize that not everybody we speak to is going to hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean to say that you can't choose a different person, because I did. And that's the worry, really, is that sometimes people can choose the wrong person to say, I'm having a bit of a shit day. But it doesn't mean to say that the next person you say it to won't listen. I've learned that.
Mm.
And it's just, I wish we had our wisdom as we get older. I mean, it's another old cliche, older and wiser. But it's not older and wiser. It's because we've made mistakes. We've learned lessons along the way. And if you learn, we all make mistakes. I'm continuing to make mistakes and I will continue to make mistakes. But if we make mistakes and learn by them, then they're not really mistakes. They're just learning curves. So
100%.
I've learned all that myself.
Yeah, 100%.
So
I no, I that was beautifully put. I think there's so much to digest in that conversation in regards of the biggest thing that I picked up on that was the question, "Are you okay?" Now, a lot of people, I got a tendency to
yeah,
say, people who know me, I always start with, "You all right?" always,
Yeah,
every single person. I bet within my working environment, people go, "Oh my God, he's doing nothing." But I always say, "Are you all right?" Now, the big difference is a lot of people do say, "Are you all right?" But the most important
yeah,
thing between your friend then was, "Are you really okay?" Now, just by putting that one word in, really, what that does, that digs
yeah.
deeper. So you go in, it's like having an onion and cutting through them first couple of walls. And once you get through there, they start feeling, oh my God, this might be someone I can talk to. And that's the importance. So if you are in a situation and you know anyone who you think is struggling, don't just say, "Are you okay, bud?" Because 9 times out of 10, I would just go, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine, fine." But you need to say, "Look, I've noticed. I know you're saying that, but are you really okay, bud? Are you really okay?" And then that then opens the door then for them feeling, okay, maybe I can talk a bit more about it. It just shows. And I think the biggest thing that we can do as people who are advocating for people with mental health is listening. It's one of the biggest things we can do, because when we listen, we've got 2 ears, 2 eyes, and one mouth for a reason. We need to listen, we observe, and then we speak. It's really, 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 really important that we can do that as well.
What I have learned is that, I've started doing that actually. I've actually said to my friends, I said, "Nobody will ever make me I will never ever make anybody feel the way that person made me feel that day, ever." So I've learned that because I remember how that felt. I will always listen. And generally, I'm not just saying it because you've just said. I mean, people have actually approached me because I've got that mindset now. I mean, in work, in friendships, there's people that you would never think got worries or problems or um, having bad days or worse even, And uh, for whatever reason, I don't know whether I must give off a facial calmness or a facial understanding. I don't know, but I do feel a lot more tuned into people because of what we've gone through, you and
Yeah.
I, and us as a family, and the feelings that I've had myself when I've tried to reach out many years ago. I don't know whether it's that, but I don't know whether I say, like you've just said, "Are you really okay?" And I'm not quite sure what I actually do, but I know I ask in a different way.
Yeah.
I can't remember the words. I'm not aware of the words, but I know that I don't walk away. I generally say, "How are you today? All right." And they stay, but there's something in their eyes. And I think because there's a difference in your eyes, I notice. Well, I do believe our eyes are the windows to our soul.
Mhm.
And you can tell a lot from somebody's eyes, a lot from somebody's eyes. And to me, if their eyes don't look as they normally look, there's generally something else going on. So I don't know what term I say to them, but people have started opening up to me that I wouldn't, and you would think I would never have expected that of that person.
Yeah.
But it's so important. Just be kind, listen, look for the signs, and be willing to just listen to people.
Mm. Really important. It is. It's so important. I think it's just about when we listen. We say I say to school, and I say to Johan and my boy uh and my kids as well. When we listen, we learn, and it's so important that we do take knowledge and just listen. And even if it's like 3 to 4 minutes of just listening to someone, that can make a massive difference in someone's life. Because if they haven't got anyone to advocate, you haven't got anyone to speak to, it's basically a privilege that they're speaking to you about it, because obviously they feel comfortable around you. I can speak on behalf of myself as well, that I have an awful lot of that at the moment. A lot of people just seem to talk to me and then approach and then just spill everything out. Kerry would laugh because the wife, she'd say that
I
it's
know.
like a mutant psychic power that you can just talk to me, and then people talk to me. I'm like, no, no, no. I don't get me wrong. I love people talking to me about their issues and me trying to help them with using my life experience. And yeah, I think if it's a gift, if you have that gift, then embrace it, even though it can be difficult sometimes, because you are taking on, and for you will take on their stress. And if you can't detach yourselves, then you need to make sure that you're putting yourself first. But what I want to do is just I want to. It's perfectly set up for the next part, really. When you said about when you look into my eyes, I want to ask you, do you remember? Was there any moment at all where you realised that what I was going through at any point in time, that it wasn't just a rough patch, that there was something else, or something wasn't quite right?
Um, well, I would say when you came back from Thailand, but when we're talking about your eyes, in the airport, I'll never forget, I had that knot in my stomach where I thought, "This is wrong. You shouldn't be going." The look in your eyes, now whether that was, you're nervous about going or whether there was something already there that I hadn't noticed before you went, I can't explain that. But as a well, as your mother, I mean, obviously, it was a big venture for you going out to Thailand on that plane, etc., etc. And you looked at me and you needed me to show you strength because you was obviously nervous about going. Now, whether he was nervous about just going or whether you had something already going on in his stomach, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. Only you know that. I noticed it that day. Um, and if I'm truthful, I think because I I wish you hadn't gone. But you went a boy and you came back a man, but you also came back with a lot of other troubles as well, and not
Yeah.
blaming it on Thailand experience because, um, again, only you can sort of fully answer that yourself. I mean, you've already gone through that on podcast yourself and in the book. And I gotta be truthful.
For me, just before we go into any more, is that when we do these podcasts, I think it's really important, especially this one. It's good to try and digest it a lot more in regards to what happened. And I remember the moment it was me, you, Sharon come up, my auntie Sharon come up, my nan and Bam come up as well, and my two cousins. And I remember going up there and everything was fine, but it was really weird because deep down, even though we got this mask before then, I developed this incredible mask of trying to prove
Yeah,
everyone wrong with my playing badminton
yeah,
the Wales, traveling over Europe, and then we had the point of me giving up badminton, and
yeah,
then there's the fact of us then, because of the badminton, because of certain situations, then we ended up moving house, so the dynamics changed, and I think I was defeating, I was trying to battle all these insecure feelings that I had within myself as well from a young period of age, and
mm,
go in there. And I remember stood there in that queue and looking over to you, to Nan, to Bamp and everything. And I literally felt as if something was pulling me back. Being that kind of, the mask at that period of time had such a firm
yeah,
grip on my face that
yeah,
it overpowered me. And then we come into that point then of, that was probably the tipping point, or the peak then of my denial stage, because I should have been brave enough to say, hey, no, it's okay. And before that, because I was manic and absolutely bonkers,
mm,
I would turn around and say to everyone, I'm going for a year. I'm going to go for a year. I'm going to do all this. So I'd already set myself up for a fall
mm,
before we got there, because I had told everyone that I'm going for a year. I'm not going to be back. I'm doing all these things.
I'm,
When really I should have said, oh, actually, I'm going to go out there, see how it feels, and we go from there. Now, if I could plan it all out now, it wasn't something we done on a whim, man, was it? We visited two people.
no,
They said they'd
absolutely
take me
not.
out there. There was a lot
No,
to do, but yeah, deep down, I shouldn't have gone because
okay.
I wasn't mentally
No,
right. But that was no one else's
no,
fault, and this is where accountability comes in. I think for a long period of time, you can sit there and you can blame other people around you and say that, yeah, I had this and I had that, but no one else got me on that plane apart from myself. That's all down to accountability. 18 once you sorry once you get to 18 years of age, then you are basically a man, even though you need guidance of parents and everything. But I remember that morning as well, before we left, my father couldn't even he came down the house in the bungalow and said goodbye, and he couldn't even condone himself because he knew something was wrong as well. And I think Thailand in itself, people don't know what happened in Thailand. It was fabulous for the first week, seen some horrific things up there. There's lots of kids who've been not within the orphanage itself, but they've been through a lot of sex crimes against them and everything, sex trafficking, and a baby died in my arms, and it was horrific. And I think once I was in that room and all these things came to a figure point, that when I basically just, it was, the best way to explain it is it's like being in a room with no walls and you're locked in there, and the room is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And inside that room, pressure is building, and you just feel as if you're just being compressed. And then when enough energy is in the room, you explode. And I think that's exactly what happened. So the stuff of me being bullied when I was really young, the stuff of thinking that I wasn't good enough, all these other perspectives, they all just escalated over and over and over and over until I had this massive, which I now know, a breakdown. Had a massive breakdown in Thailand, and there's lots of things that led up to it as well, that I should have seen the signs for, and I didn't see the signs for. And unfortunately, but fortunately, it's not unfortunately, fortunately now I managed to come home. But there's a, I've said this before, and me and my mother, I'm not a religious person, and I know mum isn't, but we're very much on the spiritual line. I don't talk about it much when we're in podcast to a lot of people. But I remember being there, and people don't know. I remember being there, and just before I was going to do something really, really stupid, because I had net for 6 to 7 days. I was, every time I was drinking, I was putting, I was vomiting it back up. So I was in this constant episode of fight, flight, or freeze. I was in that constant moment, and my body was shutting down basically because I was in such an anxious state. But on top of that, I took Flu Capsule Plus away with me, and now in Flu Capsule Plus there is caffeine. So the caffeine amplified my mental health in regards to the anxiety. So the anxiety got worse. And I remember being stood there with what I was going to do next. Was going to jump, and I had the phone in one hand, and my mother's, and I had the picture on the other hand, and I said, "Sorry, mum." And as soon as I done it, my phone rang, and it was my mother. And for those people now who are not, who say, "Oh, it's kind of bullshit," I think that's one of the reasons. A few people have said to me, "Oh, yeah, okay," but this is why it's really important for me to talk about that, because my mother now can obviously vet that and say that's what happened. Is that right, mum?
Without a doubt, my heart is literally pounding in my throat.
And
I've never ever forgot that moment. You didn't have to say or do anything at all, and I said, "You just need to come home. You're coming home." I don't
and
know
I
whether it's gut instinct. I just knew we had to get you home as soon
well,
as we could.
and I think that's the most important point. I mean, we've just been talking about, are you, I'm not okay, and that was the first time in my life that I'd actually
Mm,
said, when mum said to me, "Are you all right?" As you could tell, there was silence on the phone, and I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not okay."
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
just by now, I could have, within that conversation, if that mask was firmly in place and I hadn't have had those episodes and I didn't find that inner strength, I could have said to my mother, "No, no, no, I'm fine. Yeah, everyone's fine. It's no problem at all." And then I could have done what I could have done. But that's the importance of this. This is the kind of importance of being open and honest and trying to say, "No, I'm not okay," even to anyone, because what it does, it buys you time. And when you have time, you can come home. Fortunately for me, I wasn't living in Wales. I was in the other end of the earth. But again, there was no FaceTime. There was only Bebo back then. So, and there was no tech. Like, there were no, so it's very, very difficult to contact back home, and it cost an arm and a leg. So you only contacted back and forth. But I remember mum making
yeah,
that call, and
yeah.
we got home. Obviously, when we come home, then you obviously picked me up from the airport. Can you can you tell them what you've seen when you see me coming through the airport door?
God, he was just empty, broken. Um, it's difficult to explain. It's just so difficult to explain. But I would say just totally, totally broken and empty. Um, I don't think there are words to describe really. I was just so relieved that you were back. And I thought, whatever we got to cope with, we will cope with, you know? And then it
Mm,
just started spiraling from there, really, didn't it? But
yeah. I think
just the
when we, I remember sleeping. I remember coming home in the taxi, and I hadn't slept for like 6 days. And I remember lying
silence. It
in,
was the
yeah,
silence was deafening.
yeah, and I remember sitting. I remember lying down on your lap in the back of the car and falling asleep and feeling
Yeah,
safe. But I remember coming back. It was really weird because it was like I had to come back then, and this is where I was only out there 5 6 weeks. So in my head, I
mm,
made a jackass of myself because I said I was going away for a long period of time. We did a massive fundraiser before we went as well for the Thailand orphanage that the orphanage kept, and they kept the money towards building equipment for the children, play equipment out
yeah,
there.
well, which they did do.
Yeah, but unfortunately, because some people can be
I
really
know.
cruel, and then I'm not, and then I wasn't being honest. I told everyone that I had malaria when I went out there because we just didn't know what was going wrong. I know they questioned dengue fever when I was abroad, so we put it down to that. And a lot of people made a lot of stories up saying that I had taken people's money, and I wasn't suffering, but deep down I was crumbling. And my mother's seen that firsthand, and I know it. I know it must have been really difficult. Yes, it was difficult for me, understandable, because the aftermath of me coming back from Thailand was me constantly pacing like a wild animal back and forth in our bungalow,
Oh, good.
like
Horrifying.
horrifying.
Absolutely
Totally,
horrifying.
it was horrendous, and I totally lost my mind. I remember being
Yeah.
on the phone. Yeah, remember the phone call? I phoned the NHS, and we were
Mm,
advised to phone the 111. No, but I don't know what the number was
mm.
back then. And we called them, and they basically said, "So what would you like to do? What would you like us to do for you, Mr. Wilkes?" And I was like, "That's not my job. That's for you to tell me. You need to tell me what's wrong with me." And they were like, "Well, what do you want us to do?" And I was like, I can't tell you. Bear in mind, this moment in time, I'm pacing back and forth. My feet are constantly sweating. My tongue's white. I'm manic. I'm suicidal. All these things going on. And at that period of time, they done absolutely nothing.
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 Nothing. And
Absolutely nothing.
we were sat there, and my mother will tell you as well, there was a good a year, probably year to 2 years before,
Oh, without a
lots of
doubt.
highs and lots of lows, lots of hiding behind the mask, didn't know where anything was, going to appointments and nothing really happening. And it took 2 years of just emotional draining weight, yes, on me, but more importantly on the person who was subjected to it, and that was you, mum. It was incredibly
That,
hard.
yeah. I'm keeping myself in check because people need to know being a parent, there's no rule book, there's no guidebook. You just do your best and hope for the best. But as a parent, you want to protect your children. You want to be the one to have all the answers. You want to be the one to make them feel safe. You want to be the one to think, oh, I know exactly who to ring. I know exactly who'll have all the answers. And we didn't. The knowledge just was not out there at the time. Wherever we rang, whoever you asked, it was just like, oh, do this, take that. There was none of that at all.
No.
At all. Nobody seemed to know what to do. They were asking you how you felt, asking you what you needed, asking me what I felt. I had no idea at all. My son was spiraling out of control, and we had no guidelines, nobody to ring, no advice, no support groups, nothing at all. And how we made it through that, Sam, I will never know. I mean, I don't think we need to disclose a lot of the dark times, but I don't think any of it, well, I know I won't, and I know you won't, never, ever forget them. Never want to go back there, but we'll never forget them either. But it's a different, on a more positive note. Now, um, it, there's a lot more out there for people. There are numbers you can ring. It's a noticed, I mean, it's spoken about on a daily basis, mindfulness, well-being, good mental health, A, B, C, D, E, F. You can go on and on and on. But back then, there was just nothing. And how we made it through, I will never know. Never know.
No, and I think that's it, it was. And if if I go back now, I think well, it is those 2 years. If I didn't have the family network, if I didn't have you, if I didn't have people understanding, and there were a very select few friends who knew what was going on. I remember my one friend Daniel, he come down and I locked myself away in my bungalow in my small room, just sat there
Yeah.
kind of pacing. And it was really horrific. It was really, really horrific. So and he checked to the window to double check if I was okay. And it's little
Mm.
things like that, and like my friend getting checking on me as well. It's little things that kept me going. But if I didn't have that, and there are so many people out there that don't have that, I can't even imagine. I haven't been in that situation to even question how they got through that. Yeah, we've all got strengths and everything, but my biggest thing, yes, people say, "Oh, you're really strong for what you didn't go through." That has absolutely nothing to do with it. It is literally down to the fact of my support network around me. And I think that's why it's really important that we create. We've got the mental health groups. There's lots around with you've got Andy's Man Club.
Without
You've
doubt.
got there's lots around at the moment. But just something I want to pick up before we go even further as well. Just saying, I would just slightly want to disagree on is children's services, because obviously I was 18 back then, and the adult services have come on an awful lot. When we go back to children's experience of mental health, I will be honest with you, and I'll be straight. I think it's absolutely shocking. I look at we've had a lot of issues. I come down here now with my family, looking at my children, or the two oldest ones. They've had problems with their mental health. My one son is coming on next week on the podcast. He's the next episode. He's going to come on and talk. But they just palm you off, and they pass you to department. There's no formal help. They do these therapy sessions, and they go around these big therapy, and yet they're still struggling. And the parents then are left to pick up the pieces. I had a conversation with from 111. My youngest son, he suffers really, really bad with tics, and emotionally draining to the point of he couldn't go out with his friends, couldn't drink, couldn't go online, was finding it really hard in school. And at the age of like 10 to 11 years of age, he's saying that, Dad, I don't want to be here anymore. Now, that's absolutely crushing from my perspective. So I had my first taste then of what my mother must have felt like
But
when, oh,
horrifying.
it's horrifying what you do, what it
And the
kind
thing
of
is, as
did.
a parent, you don't want to show your child the fear you're feeling inside because they need to see your strength.
100%. I think
So,
it kind
yeah,
of qualified me then from looking at your strength of qualifying me to go, right, let's calm it down. Let's put things in boxes. Let's make phone calls.
yeah,
Let's see where we can go. But when I made those phone calls, it was literally as if, so I've got a 10-year-old child now who is really, really struggling, saying these things, even though he's in a safe environment, nothing would have gone wrong. You then ring 111, they pass you over to CAMS, then they pass you over to another team, and you were there then for an hour and nothing's really happened. They can't do anything apart from refer. So my argument is then, when you have a lot of these children who are in distress, whilst everyone's having these big MDT meetings, multidisciplinary teams, and they're talking about what they can do for their child, that child in that moment of time is still suffering. There is no immediate
yeah,
care. There is nothing there that can be used to turn around and go, right, okay, try this, let's do this. And I've got an awful lot of experience since I've come back from Thailand, read an awful lot, and I study and everything as well on mental health and the conversations as well. So I have a really good grasp on mental health, and my wife's a qualified nurse. So my children have always been surrounded by people who understand the field, who are very caring and everything. But there are children out there who are in our environments where they don't have those parents who understand the topics of mental health, or through generational trauma they think, man up, get on with it. Now all these things embed a negative generational point of view in that child's mind that they can't talk about it. Then that leads in then to higher rates of suicide rates, which is happening at the moment around the UK, and higher things with mental health and recreational drugs and whatsoever. So I really do believe, yes, we have come a massively long way. So for someone who struggled really bad
long
for two
enough, not
years,
far enough.
and we
Mm.
could even go back. I did mention it slightly. We didn't go back. Even when I went back to when I was like 10 years of age before I went to comprehensive, I was struggling because I'd been bullied horrifically when I was younger. I found it really, really hard in regards of when mum and dad split up and trying to adjust through that kind of period. It was really really difficult. And my grandfather is next minor, love him to bits and everything, but he's that kind of mentality of, yeah boy, let's get on with it, shake hands, strong man, strong ex-Welsh miner. And I was developing all these negative coping strategies, and yet they didn't have an absolute clue. No one done a mental health check on me. Nobody looked at, we're going back a long time now. We're going back 25, 26 years. But nobody done a mental health check on me. No one followed anything up to the point where I had convinced myself and my family to have an MRI scan because they thought I had a brain tumor. When
Yeah.
and that wasn't even real. There was no point in that period of conversation when we talked. All that conversation had to be is look a bit deeper, ask how I really am, talk through my emotions, and then my family wouldn't have had to been emotionally drained, and I wouldn't have had to be emotionally drained. I missed 6 months in my first year of comprehensive, which then, luckily, I managed to integrate back into school. But to a lot of people, that's where the problems start. I look at technology now. You look at bullying. Bullying's a massive thing at the moment. When I was bullied when I was younger, the bullying stopped when I come to the house. The bullying continues now. So if there are any issues, those bullying things continue on then to social media platforms, your WhatsApp apps or your green apps or whatever you want to call them. And then if you have any information about negative things, you can go on the internet as well. So if we can't change the mentality and the understanding that the children are allowed to talk and be safe, and that starts with the adults. Generational trauma. If we can stop adults from thinking it's okay to say man up, get on with it, especially on the side of football pitches where they turn around and saying get on with it, aggression, aggression, aggression. Those children, then all we're doing is reinforcing the methodology, the mentality that children should be, boys and girls should be tough, should be non-emotional, should be like robots and just be the stereotypical, I don't need to talk about my problems. And if we can make that change, yes, we're not going to make that change now to the generation of me, but what we could do as parents, especially around the younger ages of 20s and 30s, that we can make those changes to our children to make sure that when they have children, we've already nipped it in the bud. That's why we are basically pioneers of the modern day age, where we have a responsibility to educate our children that it's okay to talk, and then they can pass that message on. That's the only way we're going to stop this pandemic of mental health spiraling out of control, where, again, like I've said, we've got so many people within the UK suffering with mental health needs, and something needs to be done. Definitely. So,
Can I just go back to, when we spoke about parenting, there's no rule book. You just do your best and hope for the best. And
mhm.
I don't want this to sound all negative, and we all say it, "Oh, if I only had my time back." But, oh my god, how many times have I wished that if I had my time back, to go back to when he was a child, to act differently, to notice things, to ask more questions, to listen. And there's so many times I thought, could things have been avoided if I had done this, or if I had done that, or if I had spoken, if I had noticed things. And it's no good anybody saying, "Oh, everybody think," but I've thought that so many times, so many times.
I'll ask you two questions to follow up on that, then dig a bit deeper into that.
Mm.
Um, so as a mum, so as a mother to myself as well, or to again other people who can hopefully relate to this, and this isn't taking offence or anything, so it's just trying to understand it a
No,
bit more. Is what's it like knowing that you can't fix your child, that you're not in control?
well, it makes you feel as if you're not good enough. But as I'm saying it, I think, no, I did my best. I did my best. You feel helpless. If you think you can't, I don't know, it's difficult. I'm sorry, I'm rambling a bit now.
No, you don't. Look, this is why, and for people who listen now, this is why these conversations
Mm.
are really, really good, because they're kind of raw, they're soul searching as well, and it's trying to understand. And I
Well,
know,
it's the thing, yeah, because I'm keeping my emotions in check, because if I let my emotion override me, I mean, at the end of the day, You will always be my baby. It don't matter whether I'm 80 and you were 40. I haven't got my maths right there. I'm not saying that. But it don't matter when I'm in my rocking chair, if I get that far. You will
Oh,
still
you
be my
will. Don't
baby.
worry. You will get that far. You will get
I'm
that
just saying. But I mean, as your mum, as a parent, you always want to think that you can help your child with either doing the right thing or saying the right thing. And sometimes the reality is you can't. We just do our best.
far.
And it's heart-wrenching to look at you in so many situations when we go back. And there was one occasion where I won't say too much because it'll start me off. And if I get started off, I won't stop. But he was sat on the bottom of the stairs and you had your hand, he was holding my hand and he said, "Mum, what are we going to do?" And I didn't know what to say because I didn't know what to do myself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
And
never forget that. That was one of my lowest points because I didn't know what to do, where to turn, what to say, how to fix you. And I don't think that feeling will ever leave.
I think
It's
I think that's okay though. I think that's
it's
that
real. That's
yeah,
real.
and that's
It's
a
life.
real. I bet there's an awful lot of people who are in that situation where they
Mm,
have been approached by something or a topic has come up in regards of their child's mental health and then or anything whatsoever and they don't know what to say. And sometimes it's better not to say anything. Sometimes it's
anything at
better
all.
just to because if you come up and say something or you promise it, the worst thing you could do to me is say, yeah, we
I
will sort this,
promise.
we'll do this. If you promise me,
Yeah.
I'm holding on to promises. Now, back in
Mm.
2018, when I had my second relapse, the really, really bad one, where Christmas Day, and
Oh yeah.
it all started going down. The one thing that got me through it was a horrible period because mental health services were nearly all non-existent over Christmas. So I suffered all over Christmas, which was horrendous. But the one thing that got me through was just day by day. And that's a big, big thing for if you were in a situation, and I know my mum can vouch for this as well. If you're in a situation where you are in crisis, start with an hour, and then a day by a day, and then go from there.
I
I
was
was
gonna
on,
say it's not so much a day by day, it's hour by hour,
yeah,
isn't it?
because I was on the day. They back in 2018. I decided I had a really bad year mentally. Started deteriorating. uh, changed jobs, lost my job, decided to go on another venture, to do another venture, didn't materialize after 6 months. When I was told by my wife that it wasn't the right thing to do, but being the proud, egotistical, just person I was, I'm trying not to be anymore. That I stuck my guns and put that before everything else. So my pride of trying to prove others that I could be a success was more important at the time than providing a safe environment for my family. And I understand
Mm.
that now. And I think when I come back and I take that big drop off, seeing the impact it had on Kerry, the wife, and she stood by there. I thought it was my medication. I come off my medication. They took me off metazapine, which I'd been on since 2009. So I'd been on it for like 9 years. So imagine that amount of medication, which has been in your system for such a long period of time, you become dependent on it, which is a good for me. I'm still on it now. Looking, but I've been on the medication for nearly 20 years. Uh, and it works well on me now. I managed to work with it, not against it. So it's a really, really good tool in my arsenal. But I'd come off it and I was abroad with the wife and my mental health just deteriorated and I put myself mentally back in the room then, back in that mental space. And I remember just everything just crashing down around that period of time, which was difficult, which was really, really bad. But again, that day by day with the diazepam, they'd give me emergency diazepam at the time as well. So I was taking that, and I remember going, right, I'm gonna go a day now. I'm gonna go 6 hours without taking a diazepam, which I done. And then I said, right, I'll go a day. And then in a day, it took into 2 days, or 3 days, or 4 days, and then that's the way I built myself back up. So when we're rock bottom, and we are rock bottom, we need to start small. We can't go big. We can't move mountains. What we could do is build little sand castles or little mole holes. And then eventually, over time, when you start building yourself up brick by brick, and you can then start moving forward and achieving more. But it's really, really important. I think this is what I learned from myself coming out of that is how important it is to lay very, very strong foundations. And the only way that you can set strong foundations is by investing in yourself, by making sure that the most important person in your life should always be you. It shouldn't be the
Would agree.
family. It shouldn't be the children. It shouldn't be anything else. Because I know if I don't keep the routine, I know if I drink alcohol, which again makes me, I'm depressed on a Sunday and my mental health is all over the shop. If I if I become manic in a certain scenario, if I keep chasing dreams, if I do all them things, they're characteristics of me then spiraling out of control. So for being in control of a situation is highly, highly, highly important to me. But it all starts by building strong foundations to work off. And those foundations were never put in place. That's no one else's fault apart from myself, because again, it's your responsibility as an adult that you go through to start building foundations, to learn what you did when you were younger. And I didn't pick up on the learning things. I was very, very strong minded, and just to fit in with everyone. When I come back from Thailand, I still wanted to go out with my friends. I still wanted to go out drinking weekends. I flitted between friendship groups because my mental state was all over the shop. And it wasn't until my friend read the book that I released last year, Gethin, where he said that it makes sense. Everything that I've been through now makes sense when he read the book, because it kind of
Yeah.
justifies the manic behaviors of what had happened before. So my advice to anyone when you go through any kind of situations like that at all, in your life, a periods of time, don't promise don't promise anything. Don't say, oh, we were 100% we get through this, and because you sometimes it's going to take a long period of time. Sometimes people might not get back to normal. It took me, well, even the person before I went to Thailand, I'm still not right in regards of I suffer with anxiety every single day. I didn't really suffer with anxiety before I went to Thailand. So my general anxiety disorder and then the PTSD has been picked up, even though you can overcome PTSD, is still one of the things, even now, if I see a baby in the house or around me, that I feel sick to the stomach and I need to run. So there's still things now after all the training and all the therapy that I still struggle with. So you're never really going to be the same. You just learn to become stronger because of it. And you really do need to make sure that you say to that person, let's just take an hour at a time. Let's do a day at a time. Let's try this tomorrow. And then slowly but surely you can get back into routine. But it's very important along the way that we build them foundations. It's really, really important. Really important. The big question, and then we'll start going into a bit more about what you're doing now, about how things have turned around and everything. I think it's on reflecting. There's two questions really, and then we, like I said, we'll pick things up and be a bit more uplifting that. But I think it's really important for people to know. Did you, as a parent, ever blame yourself for what you see me go through?
Yeah. Yeah, I did, sadly. I did. Um, for a lot of it. It's a case of like, if only this, like I said earlier on, I blame myself for not recognizing signs, or were there signs? Uh, did I miss them? Could I have stopped this happening? So many times, yeah, the guilt is awful. But again, there is no rule book. You just do your best. And I believe at the time I did my best. And even though sometimes now I think, now that I've got, obviously you were older, and I know how you felt, and I've learned lessons along the way. There is no way to go back, but I've learned lessons by it. But yeah, of course I do. I do feel guilty, but nobody should feel guilty, because when you're a parent, you just do the best you can.
And me speaking to you, look, and it's the comfort as well that there
Oh,
is.
I'm not asking you to make, because I've said to you, when you do these podcasts, don't worry about me. Even though my stomach would be flipping over, and I'll be honest with you, it would be flipping over because I knew I was going to hear things I'd never heard before. I knew, even as your mother and as close as we are, and always will be, I hope, that I knew I was going to hear things from yourself, from your heart, from your mind that I never knew, and they were going to sting. And they did. They
Yeah.
did. But I said to you, there is no point in you doing this unless you were totally honest with yourself and with other people. Because if you're not going to help yourself or other people. Don't worry about me. And I was saying it, as I was saying it, my stomach was flipping because I knew I would have to face a parent's guilt of thinking, oh my God, why didn't I notice that? Why didn't I do this? If I had noticed that, could I have changed it? But as a parent, I stopped myself. It's a learned skill because you cannot go back.
No.
You can only I did my best at the time, and I keep saying to myself, we are where we are. Thank God you are where you are. Um, we came through it, and I did the best I could at the time. It's not good looking back, but yeah, of course I do. I feel guilty every day. I think that's a normal human response from a parent. You'll feel it yourself. You probably have already.
100%. I look at some of the things that around me, and I wonder if back in 2018, when my mental health was crippled, and I had I had my 4 year old in the house, and I had the other two boys as well, and you sit there and think, well, did they pick up anything from me? Did they pick any of my manicness behaviors of me? Have they struggled because of me? And I think you can't keep blaming yourself
No, you
for
can't. You
you
cannot go
can't.
through life blaming
And
yourself. No.
I think that comes down to the fact of when you have relationships as well. And the way I kind of look at it, I heard a proverb the other week, and it said that sometimes relationships, they don't end and it's not over; they just run its course. And I think
Yeah, absolutely.
you can give as much time as you want to like relationships and to friendships and to other things as well. But it's done. Whatever's done is done, and you can't change what had happened. Like I would love, right, to go back to when I was like 3 years of age or whatever, not go back to I'm trying to understand and have a conversation with mum and dad that they weren't splitting up, or to stand up to the bullies and be the kind of person I am now that doesn't take any shit from anyone. Um, but there's lots of things that I would have done. Probably wouldn't have gone to Thailand. I would have gone to Australia with people I knew was going to Australia, and I probably would never would have come back, and I'd be out there having Aussie kids, and my mother would be living out there.
Yeah.
But look, at the end of
But
the
a
day, I
life
wouldn't
is
be.
full of ifs, buts, and maybes, though, isn't it? You know what I mean?
But then what I look at now is that if I hadn't gone through all that, what I like to call mentally, my life is full of lots of joyous situations. I had amazing family around me. I've
Yeah.
done some amazing things and everything, but mentally I suffered for a long period of time. But if I didn't go through all the mental struggles, I wouldn't be where I am now with meeting
No.
the most amazing wife that I got. My
Yeah.
mother having an amazing, deeper connection, understanding relationship with my mother. So we've got like an unbreakable bond now in regards of understanding. I wouldn't have been able to be understanding about maybe the situations around other families of me trying to work on the relationship with my father to build a stronger relationship with my father, trying to be a good role model to my children, and trying to understand things from a mental health perspective to guide them in the right directions, and not being in the situation I'm in now to do podcasts and be open and help people and do talks all around the country. When someone asks me, sometimes you've got the guilt and then you've got regret, and people say, well, do you regret any of it? And if I add all that up and I compare and contrast between the negatives and the positives, the answer is no. I don't.
No,
I don't
absolutely. No.
regret. I don't regret at all, because I would quite happily, and this sounds quite messed up, I'd quite happily go through every single element again. The only thing I regret is the hurt that it put through people through around the way. However, if I could only look at myself and going through all again, 100%. I go through every single element all over again because I know it's took me
To be where you are now.
to where I am now.
Yeah.
Sometimes that comes down to, like, a lot of people are starting to familiarize themselves now with the Forge method and everything, and when I break it down, that's what it is. You go through that denial stage, then you go in, which was prior to Thailand. Coming home from Thailand was the acknowledgement stage between the family and a few little friends, and then it was all the way up to 2018 where then I started to accept things, and I accepted the way things were after I had my massive breakdown in 2018, and accountability.
Mm.
I accepted the fact that maybe these things had happened to me. I accepted the fact that maybe I hadn't had the relationships or the friendships that I desired, and then I held myself accountable for those feelings. And when I put them in place, I was then able to go through a stabilization period where it took me 7 years of putting myself in a truck and driving around the country in a truck and working 65-hour weeks, listening to podcasts and reading books. Yeah, it took a long time, but it's now taken me to the point where I'm empowered, where I can now go out and help other people. So don't get under this myth of when people think that, oh yeah, you'll be fine, you'll get through it. I'm not right, and it's going to take like a month or a week, whatever. Sometimes it takes a fucking long time. Pardon my language. It does. It takes a long time, a lot of hard work to get to the point where people are at mentally, but it doesn't come on its own. It all comes down to those two things: it's accountability and acceptance. If you can put those two things together, and within the forge process, you've got the ore, which is denial, acknowledgement, which is the flame, and then you've got the anvil, which is accountability, acceptance of the hammer. You put them all together, you start hammer away on your metal to create your soul, which is empowerment. You are on your way then to whatever you want to be in regards to successful. I don't class myself as successful, but I class myself as lucky, and to get to the point where without my family and friends, I wouldn't be here. 100% I wouldn't be here. But with my family and friends, and also learning from what I've done, I'm then able then to feel empowered going forward. But that comes down massively to the impact of what my mother has had on me as well. So, yeah, it's a big thing. But don't, if you have any guilt at all, it's a natural thing. But again, as long
It
as you
is
try your
natural, yeah.
best, as long as you try your best, that's all that matters. So
I
we'll
think
go into, go on.
I think one of the most important things people can take from this is ignoring everything other than, please don't let pride be your downfall, and speak to people. And you might, even if you get rejected or the wrong answer, or from one person, doesn't mean to say that the next person won't listen, because there are people out there who will listen.
100%. And
Don't be afraid to talk to people. If you're having a bad day, don't be too proud to say, I'm having a shit day, because there's nothing wrong with that. You know, going back to me many, many years ago, when people didn't ask me if I was all right because they assumed I was. And
yeah,
when I realized in my mind, people are not going to listen or not going to help you unless you actually say, I'm not okay. I'm having a shit day. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So
and
don't be too proud to say, I'm not having a very good day today, because there are people out there who will listen and support you.
percent. I think that's where it comes into the latter part then of the podcast, and I think it's looking at you once you want. Now we've come through this full circle, and hopefully, touch wood, never ever, if you have got mental health issues and you think, yeah, I'm finally cured now, I can be lenient. Don't. It's one of those things. It's a lifestyle change. It's one of those things that are going to stay with you for the rest of your life. It's how you manage it. So trust me, I'm not going to go away. I didn't have any alcohol problems, but I haven't. I don't drink alcohol because I know it doesn't upset me. I don't take any caffeine. I go to the gym. I've realised the importance now of training in the gym nearly every single day, of being exercise, of a healthy diet as well. All them things are contributing to me feeling like clarity, to feeling empathetic, to being a good father, physically feeling better. I'm in control of my situation. If you were doing all the negative things, then really the only person you got, and this is going to sound really, really harsh, but the only person you got to blame is yourself. Because you were the person who were contributing to that when you could be in control of other things as well. Yes, you can't be in control of trauma and stuff. You can talk that through with therapists or through natural talking, CBT training, and lots of different things. But if you were amplifying those things by putting bad things in your body or doing the wrong things, then that all comes down to you. That I just want to make that point really, really, really clear. There's help out there, but you do need to take yourself. You do need to be accountable for your actions. But now we've come like full circle. How, knowing what I've been through and then seeing what you've been through by being someone who's viewed it and perceived it from another set of eyes, how do you think it's changed you as a person?
Myself?
Yes, you as a person. Yeah.
Well, like we touched on it earlier on, everybody's got a story, and we should never forget that. I'm also aware that, you always get a class clown in the work and all this and that. And generally they cannot be that happy all the time. Cannot be that happy all the time. I'm aware that we've spoken about masks, and there's a lot of people who wear a mask. If they're miserable all the time, there's generally a reason. If they're happy all the time, that isn't real either. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Just I take a lot more time to not just, listen, but really listen to people. I talk a lot more to people. Um, I think I'm just a little bit more, a lot more in tune rather than just general conversation. I'm not afraid to ask questions that they might not be expecting me to ask,
Yeah.
rather than rather than just mundane stuff. Do you know I'm mumbling again now?
No, you're not.
It's difficult.
You're not mumbling. And I can guarantee you, right? Whoever's listened to this, we haven't even done any editing or anything, but guarantee whoever's listened to this, none of this has been rumbling, apart from me having a small little break, which I'll break it up by rumbling with my dog barking. But apart from that, you haven't mumbled one bit. You've carried yourself through this conversation. I just want to say this: you've carried yourself through this conversation. You've blown my understanding of your how delicate you are on such an important matter, and the composure you have through the entire conversation to talk about something which is so personal to regards of, and I know the amount of love that you have for me as well, how powerful that is. Honest, you've been incredible, absolutely incredible. There's nothing to worry about whatsoever.
Oh,
You've
thank
been
you for that, because uh, I don't want people to think that I sort of haven't contributed towards this. But as you can appreciate, to anybody who's listening to this, for any parent to, as we're having this conversation, I'm hesitating, and then I start to mumble because I have flashbacks,
mm,
and I have, obviously Sam has lived it, but I've lived it too. And as his parent, as any parent, you want to be able to say the right thing to your child,
yeah.
to make things better, to have every answer. And as humans, we haven't. We just do our best, and that's all I can say, really. I just hope the people have got something from this conversation.
I think I 100%. I was going to say think. I 100% do. I know there's people out there, and again, when we do these podcast episodes, whoever wants to listen to these podcasts, or if there are any other podcasts out there, never be disheartened. However many people listen to them, you only need one person to listen to the podcast and feel touched by it. Just by having this open conversation and talking openly about something which is very, very personal to myself, very, very personal to my mother as well, and to all the other guests that be coming on, you only need one person to take strength from that, and you've done your job. So for the like of just spending on a Saturday, or whenever you do the time of recording this, whenever you spend like an hour and a half recording and you think, oh my God, only 4 people have listened to that, don't worry about it, because 4 people have listened to it. They've taken the time out of their lives, their busy lives, to listen to what you've got to say, and you don't know the impact that's had on people. The amount of people who have come up to me and said, lots of people have come up to me and said, oh, the videos you're putting up and everything, why do you keep doing all the time? It's a bit boring seeing your face all the time. And my answer is really, really clear to them, right?
We haven't
That
got a listen, they can tune off.
yeah, if you don't want to listen,
With
then
all
just
due
swipe
respect. With all due
swipe up or
respect.
delete me. But
Yeah,
I've
that's
had
right. That's right.
I
That's right.
a
Mm.
small story, a little small story before we look to finish things up. In the summer, again, the book was out and everything as well. The book was selling, which was fabulous. Doing the videos, people thanking, and then I started the podcast and stuff. And I remember someone saying to me, "Well, why are you even doing it? What's the point in doing it?" And literally the night before, I had a message of a very well known rugby player who I know locally. Won't mention his name out of confidentiality and everything. And he messaged me and he said, Sam, he said, just want to say, your videos you've been putting up. I said, yeah, yeah. I said, what do you think? I said, do you think they're shit or do you? And he was like, no, 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 no. He said, if anything, watching you on your journey has given me the strength to keep me alive. He said, because I'm really struggling at the moment. Now, just by one person saying that, for me, it totally outweighs everything. If someone says, "Oh, I don't want to listen to your podcast. I don't want to listen to what he wants to say and everything," I really couldn't care because it's for those people, those really the minority at the moment of people who listen to the podcast, who listen to what I need to say about topics, about my life and everything. It's those people who are being helped by that are more important. So if you were doing any of this and you think that your voice or your opinion doesn't matter whatsoever, some person up there can take strength from what you need to say. And that's why this platform that I'm trying to build the Forge Within through the natural conversations, through the Forge method, the workshops, and now we got the podcast. This is where real people can tell their stories because there's nothing stronger than listening to someone's other point of view on things, someone else's story, and getting strength from that. That's how it's all about connecting the dots. A wise person told me before, it's all about connecting the dots. And that's all it is. You connect, you branch out, we grow as a community, we grow as a nation, and we just get better and better and better at it. But until we can do that, have these honest conversations, which sometimes are really, really difficult, and for other people to see how vulnerable some people are, we're never going to get there. We're never, ever going to get there. And I'll stand by that as well. Yes, it can be difficult for some people, but trust me, for someone, and we spoke about it really as well, when I finally told my friends that I struggle with my mental health, that I attempted suicide, that I was having suicidal thoughts, that this and everyone, every single one of them turned around and went, okay, yeah, it's fine. And that was
Mm.
absolutely mind blowing in regards to the emotion. Yes, I was terrified for years, wondering if they're ever going to think that they're going to lock me away and never speak to me ever again, call me a freak. No one did. And now that I'm open and talk about my mental health, I wear a mental health hat. I got a lanyard that talks about mental health. I'm very open about it all over social media. I'm not expecting everyone to be like me, be as open as I am, but just talk, just openly talk. If you've taken anything from this conversation tonight, you can openly say that, and we both, myself and my mother, can openly say, you just need to listen, which is the biggest thing for the people who are being debriefed on that person's life. And then the people who need to open up, they just need to talk. That's all it is. Listening and
No
talking.
doubt, yeah.
I just want to finish up on saying, do you last closing words for yourself, ma'am? What advice would you give to someone now, being the kind of person you are? And I know when we spoke about this, you were like, "Oh, I don't think I got any advice," but I can tell you what, a lot of people are going to listen to this and go, "Wow, they're going to take an awful lot of
Oh,
strength from this," right?
we haven't got
So,
any magic advice really, have I?
but no, but what you've got is that a lot of people may not have at the moment. They might be going through the situation that you were going through with me 18 years ago, and what you learned from that, what you do now. Like I know that you check in on me if you see that I'm doing anything that could contribute to me being manic. You double check in and see just all check. There's lots of things that you do. So it just quick summary of what you think that you people can look out for, what they can do as a parent, and yeah, we'll look to end it up on that then.
Well, I base it on what I do with you really. Whereas before, when he was younger, I didn't want to sort of say something that might upset you. Now I'll sort of say to you, Sam, don't run before you can walk, or don't do this. All check, mind. And whereas before, perhaps I wouldn't have said that because I'd be afraid of offending you. But I think it's all about recognition. I'm really tuned into if you your body language alone, if you start doing anything in a manic way, straight away I'm in there saying, Sam, don't overdo it, mind, because to me, that's a sign that things might start rolling away again. And you sort of say to me, it's all right, mum, I got myself in check. That settles me as a mother then, because I've said it, you are aware, so I can sort of tick that box. I'm a lot more aware of that now.
No, no, I think that's an incredible bit of advice in what you've said, and I think what we need to do is I think the key conversation that you've just said there then is don't be afraid to have the hard conversations. If you feel that they're struggling,
No,
and again, don't be afraid, approach them, confront them, and deal with it, and then eventually you can get through it. If you have any concerns at all as a family that you want to talk about, be relentless in your approach to understand and try to gather them, because again, they'll thank you for it in the long run. But if you just take their word, if I again we'll go back to that Thailand situation, if I had turned around on the phone and said, "No, I'm fine, ma'am, no problem at all," if there was no conversation with, "Are you okay? You really okay?" I wouldn't be here. So look, have them conversations, and I just want to again. This is the first time both myself has hosted a podcast before, so it's been a bit of a trial period for me, and I couldn't think of anyone better to share my first experience of this new journey in regards to hosting the first ever episode of the new Reforge platform of the Forge podcast with my mother as well. So I just want to say on behalf of me, thank you very much for everything the person you've been, the person that has been there through everything, continues to be there, not just for me, but for the grandchildren, for Johan, for the two boys as well, to be an amazing, just a general person. You are
oh,
just
don't thank me, Sam. It's my absolute pleasure.
no, I know.
It's an absolute, it's my gift in life, really. It's my gift in life. And I think people, most people will say that about their families. But I hope people can get something. I mean, I'm sorry if I've rambled a little bit, but as you can appreciate, it's been a difficult subject to talk about because we've been on the journey. But please don't be afraid to talk. Just talk and listen, and don't think, oh, I better not ask that because I might upset him. Just ask the question. Just ask the question. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? That person could say, "Oh, I don't really want to talk about that today." But if you don't ask the question, you will never know. They might be brave enough to say, well, I'm having a bit of a bad day. And then a conversation starts.
100%.
Just
And
all, yeah.
yeah, 100%. And yeah, again, thank you so much. And I just want to end up on the conversation again. This is obviously the first episode of the new season. Hopefully, continue going on with guests. We've got guests now booked in now for the next couple of weeks. Lots of different guests from people within an educational setting who've worked in education, and they've had experiences from neurodiversity, from people who've from experience with children within their own environment with neurodiversity, like ALN and autism, alcoholism as well. We've got people coming on, and next week, what I'm going to be doing next week is we're going to be doing an interview with my middle son, which is going to be Lloyd Screen, and he's going to be talking about relationships, about friendships, and then talking about how when he found religion, how much that made a difference to him mentally, and how he found that is his guiding light, basically, to bring him back from any dark times of experience. So that's going to be a really, really interesting conversation. He's only 18 years of age, again, a really, really young mind, but it's really important for me to have a conversation with someone who sees the world through a different lens, who's a lot younger than me, and sees where mental health services are. And also, it might be a bit of a tough conversation for me as well, because there might be things that I've done that he might want to confront me on and talk about as well. So it'll be really good learning curve for me, and hopefully it'll be a good learning curve for the listeners as well. But again, I just want to end by saying thank you so much to my mother, Beverly, for being an amazing guest there. I think everyone who's listened to this would be very touched by her open honesty, how she's carried herself through the conversation, even though she worried through the majority of the conversation that she'd be mumbling, but there wasn't much mumbling at all. Probably me on occasions going through a few conversations, but it's a learning curve. She was amazing. And again, thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
That's okay, love. Love you.
Love you too. Again, so I just want to say to everyone, this is the Forge Within podcast. I'm your host, Sam Wilkes, and this is a place for real conversations and real stories, and hopefully together we can change the world and the communities around us by breaking the stigma on mental health. Bye everyone, I'll see you next week. Bye.